Hello and welcome to another segment of About Business, brought to you from the Economic Resource Council here at NCTV. Welcome all of you out there to this program where we talk about business in Nevada County and what it means to us who live here. Today we have a great program. I have a couple of wonderful guests here from Citizens Bank of Northern California. We have Ms. Judy Hess, the CEO of the President of Citizens Bank of Northern California, and we have Mr. Tim Peterson, the Chief Credit Officer for the bank. And so when they showed up here today to start this taping program, I asked them if they could loan me $1, and they wanted to know what for, and I said a beer, and they said, I'm not going to loan that to you, but maybe we'll find out if this credit crisis as difficult as we think it is. So welcome to both of you to be here, and thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for inviting us.
So let's just start off and describe who is Citizens Bank. It is a community bank. So Judy, you're the president of the bank. Where did the bank come from? How long has it been here?
One of my favorite questions. And I almost started with 15 years ago. Actually, our bank was founded in 1995 for all the right reasons. There are a lot of great banks in our community. But if we could say, get our moment of fame, we're the only bank that was actually founded in Nevada County that helps all of the citizenry, of all puns intended, in our county. So if you look at a reason for its founding, 100% to help small business in Nevada County. And along the way, those great employees that work for the great companies that thrive in our community, they're our customers too. So, you know, a lot of things that are trite, that's for sure. But, you know, for a founding reason, to help business in Nevada County. Simple.
Great. You're headquartered here, and how many branches have you now?
We have 7 today, 6 of them throughout Nevada County, and one for the first time we stepped our foot into Placer County. That office opened about 1.5 years ago in Auburn, over on Lincoln Way. So if you haven't been there, you've got to stop by and see us. We did an amazing job at renovating an old post office building. And for those of you who don't know, we have a passion for the historic buildings in the communities that we serve, and do our best to help renovate those buildings.
Great. And Tim, how long have you been with Citizens Bank of Northern California?
Well, I got to the bank about 7 months after the doors were open. And I felt very lucky to come into the organization. But I had no idea the kind of growth that we'd have, and it's been fun from my point of view to look at the bank grow over the years and watch the community grow as well. And the bank has fit itself neatly, I think, into the business community, and then also serves consumers. To begin with, they were customers that were brought in actually by the businesses themselves, either their employees or their relatives, and of course we have a very loyal group of board members and originating founders for our stock, and those folks all do a good job of moving customers in our direction, and then we take it from there.
Good.
You know, it's interesting how banks are founded. It actually is people taking their checkbooks out and writing a check out, ponying up, for loss of a more articulate thing to say. But it's a lot of people with a common interest investing, and then expecting that we'll deliver to them.
Let me ask you a question on that, Judy, about sort of the noble purposes of banks. When you go to charter a bank, what kind of restrictions are you given, or missions are you given by the banking authorities? You have to serve some purpose.
Yeah, well, you do. Actually, there's much like a business starts with a business plan, our business not only starts with a plan, but it's loaded with behavior as well, behavior that we're monitored for regularly, with a promise to return and a promise to act in a way that would protect not only shareholders but our depositors. So along the way, you know, banks start with a check, right? Founders, and then one depositor at a time. And you'd hope that you'd get them quickly so that you can return and start lending out the monies that you're founded with. Responsibility-wise, it's an everyday vigilance of watching over a depositor's money, but even more so, Gil, it's watching over the community, being there when a community needs you, and making the right decisions most of the time.
Well, there is a sort of a civic responsibility in the banking business to serve the credit and banking needs of the community. So we're glad to have Citizens Bank here. I just want to talk a little bit more about Citizens Bank generally. Then I'm going to move into the whole business of the economy and how it features onto Main Street here in Nevada County. But I know that Citizens Bank's heavily invested in the nonprofits of our community, for which we're eternally thankful. Could I just ask Judy if you would speak to that for just a minute about your community involvement through the nonprofits?
Well, I'd be happy to. Actually, the involvement in our community goes right down to the bank's mission statement, and it isn't 1,000 words. Literally, the bank's mission statement is your community, your bank. It's that simple. So you'll find our employees, there are 83 of us right now, involved in about 79 nonprofit organizations, whether it's anything from funding to sitting on boards of directors, to our children, our family members being involved in all the right things. We're careful about delivering on what we pledge to do. There's that side, that being responsible lenders, that certainly, and that's how we make our money. But the other side of our business is we're in the business for helping make nonprofits their money as well.
Good.
Bill,
Well,
I would like to let it be noticed that I have my Rotary pin.
And I'm caught without my Rotary pin today.
yes, we are Rotarians
Yes,
here also.
yeah, we are a Rotarian organization.
Sort of enough about Citizens Bank. I want to get into the deeper issue. I'm sure everybody that's watching is really concerned about what's going on in the economy today and how what happens on Wall Street is affecting Main Street. I'm always reminded that in the banking world that you people don't make loans, you rent money. And it's just out there for a rental basis. But Tim, I want to direct this to you. How is what's going on in Wall Street affecting us on Main Street in Nevada County?
Well, Gil, this really started with the national situation that went on as a result of the subprime lending activities that went on throughout our country. And because of those loans and their eventual demise, to the most part, to some part, let's just say, that has caused a lot of what we see going on today. Probably some of those in the audience may not have seen this happening 2 years ago. It started in about 2006. And it was about mid-2006, the beginning of the third quarter, that the slowdown occurred in real estate. And it affected the economy as well. And rather than looking at recessions, it was not a recession at that point, and only got to a recession in the last quarter of 2007, just minorly, 0.02%. It was recalculated in that period. But what has happened is the customers out there, some of them felt it more and more, especially if you were in the construction industry or if you were related to that industry in the beginning, but you certainly felt it in the last 30 days. And that turmoil that has been created in the stock market, and so all of those of us that have any stocks, 401ks, or any of those kinds of things have seen the decrease. But what I would like to say is the bottom line, after all that's said and the outcome is seen from all of that, we believe this is out about 2 years. During that time, and it may be less, we see it about a 2-year event more, and we're hoping that we'll be coming out of that situation maybe as early as mid-next year, but certainly by the first quarter of 2010. And so folks that are out there, the best thing to do is just learn to live with the situation as is today. Do not panic. The worst thing to do is to worry about what has happened to the 401k. The way I look at it, if you're still putting money into it, you're getting a 30% discount at least on anything you buy. So it's not a bad deal. But I know I don't want to trivialize it, but there's nothing we can do to change those things that have happened. What we can do is be optimistic and look forward to the better days that will come and walk our way through it.
Okay. I think it's good advice. There's not much we can do about it, but there's a lot we can do about how we relate to it. Judy, let me ask you, liquidity seems to be a question on the street today. So liquidity, as it relative to Nevada County, is there a liquidity problem in Nevada County? Are there funds available to support those cash flow needs of companies and business?
Good question. Well, let me start with this, with the positive side of it. The bank is making loans today, and I'd have to bet that the banks in town would say the same thing for the right reasons, that's for sure. Our bank might be a little bit different. It doesn't mean that we take a higher risk than the bank down the street. What it does mean, though, is we take a look at a little bit closer at borrower needs and look for a way to say yes. Sometimes we can't. But our job is to make sure that we, where we can, we step up and make sure that we help escort some of our businesses, per se. Doesn't mean that we're not on the consumer side, but businesses, to keep business going and growing through some tough times that we're in right now. There's a lot of you pick up a newspaper today or turn on a radio to non-local stations because local stations report differently. That's my KNCO plug, that's for sure. But you can pick up turn on any media today and hear some some hearsay about banks cutting credit to both businesses and to consumers. And I would say today that's not in the picture for our bank. We look at those business borrowers of ours, while there are parts of our economy that are growing today, and that might be manufacturing, the medical side, they're kind of pushing forward. And economically, we all take turns. But in some of those other industries, they're reliant on their lines of credit and their reserves to get them through some tough times right now. And our stance is we don't see, in the immediate future where the bank might be doing that. Today there's that comfort in having your credit lines.
Yeah, companies live by credit lines
They
often, particularly when it comes to payroll. Those payrolls need to be paid every 2 weeks on that Friday. And we really rely on banks in terms of we in the business community rely on the banks to be able to go there to pull those funds out on those short-term bases. Tim, let me take back to you and ask you about, we've heard on the national scene, the foreclosure rate, the amount of people that are walking away. What is the rate of foreclosures within the county? Is it higher here, lower here, about the same as it is nationally?
It's about the same. When you look at what has happened to home prices, the home prices have dropped in this community about 21%. It could drop a bit more. We don't know if we're at the bottom yet. But as far as foreclosures are concerned, we're not hit as heavy in this community. And the reason for that is that overall we have a community of folks here that might be overall, over the community itself, perhaps a little bit better off economically, individually, if you will, financially, than you may find in another area, say in the San Joaquin Valley, where people that bought a lot of these houses, we've seen them, if you pass through the valley communities, you've seen these developments grow in size, and a lot of that growth was as a result of the subprime mortgages that we talked about earlier. But as far as today, what the bankruptcy rate is here, it's lower because of the community we live in.
Do you have any way, without being too specific, although I will have to apologize to everyone, Tim used the word approximately 21%. If it's approximate, it is 20%, Tim. It proves that he's in the number side of banking. Let me pull back to Judy and ask Judy a question. You're probably not prepared for this one, Judy, but how influential in terms of the bank is the retirement community here, because we have such a large population of retired people and the average age in our county is fairly old. Does that play anything into the bank? Is that one reason we don't see foreclosures?
Good question. It's a long question, too. We see in our community, what you call the gray factor, whatever is politically correct today. To a degree, it is probably softened it for us. But more so, our community has a propensity to pay their bills. So other than other than that portion where you find people, maybe even some walkaways from debt, whether it be on the residential side, certainly not on the commercial side. We've got our commercial real estate is behaving today. But the senior factor keeps, I think, buffers us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing that buffered us was the number of, we don't have large developments of houses here. We have some moderate size or small size, but there's not the larger developments that we again saw in the valleys that caused some of the problems that were felt. And so consequently, while we in this community should be looking for ways to find housing for all of our community to live in or to buy and enjoy home ownership, we do have a bit of an issue on both sides of that. We didn't enjoy the downside as much, but at the same time, we need to provide for those that need housing in our community.
So we're finding some great opportunities for first-time home buyers, some good opportunities for people who have left the communities that they're in and have come up kind of cash rich right now, and are finding some, especially if they're seniors, finding some opportunities where they will not have a house payment. They can actually afford to purchase, outright purchase homes up here. And then there's some great opportunities for, on the affordable housing side, for folks to step into sometimes first-time home buyers, sometimes assisted buying opportunities.
Well, as these home prices generally become more affordable, our workforce is able to stay here, and there's less pressure to move outside. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that happens in business is we need to have a good, reliable, educated workforce. And so I think that some of this present crisis has done us well in bringing that affordability back to some housing here to keep some of these workers here rather than migrating other places. And our unemployment rate is a little less here than it is in other parts of the state. One of the other questions that I see in the banking world that makes me personally nervous, I'm not sure we have addressed the issue of credit with the consumer credit issue. A lot of people have credit cards maxed out. Is this another crisis that's looming in the back room that we haven't addressed yet? Since we've addressed the mortgage market, have we not addressed the credit card issue?
The credit card issue actually is ongoing. It's been going on for some time. There have been larger delinquencies and losses by banks with credit card portfolios. We happen to be one of those banks that do not have our own portfolio of credit cards, so we are not affected by that. By the way, I should also mention that we had none of the subprime loans on our books, nor did we have any of the investment problems that happened to some community banks as a result of investing some of their money, excess money that they may have had in one of the bond issues that may have included some of the subprime loans. So as far as that is concerned, we find that we see some population of people that do have credit card problems. But again, it's not that we have none in this community, but it just filters through just about every level of our community in terms of problems that we're facing. It's not as big an issue here in our community.
Well, it's not as big an issue here in our community. Is it considered that the difficulty nationally can have an effect here? Is that credit card problem large enough to create some sort of a bubble financially?
Exactly. And Gil, you know the really good thing about what's happened within our government side. Our governmental side has been really proactive, and I'll mention Ben Bernanke. He is the head of the Fed, the FDIC, and basically, and the Fed, and basically, I don't want to get him wrong, but he's been the guy that has been very aggressive in getting involved early on in this when the real pain started showing up in the stock market. And actually that was a result of what they had seen in the investment banks. So that early move to support those banks, there are different banks than our kind of bank. We're called the Main Street banks, and the investment bankers are those larger institutions that were having very large problems as a result of packaging these mortgages and their investments in those mortgages. But what we see now for banks like ours is that, yes, some of those things could have happened to us more so than I think they will now. We don't know to what extent we will be affected in the future, but I think it's going to be much better. We'll get out of this thing much earlier than we would have otherwise had the Fed not gotten in early. And I know it's not been, you know, it certainly wasn't our desire. Banks have been faced with coming in and fixing the problems that have been created in past recessions that have happened, and we find ourselves there again. But as far as whether this is going to be big, I think the real issue is going to come down to the next thing. If we can get an economic stimulus package, which is the next thing that Bernanke has suggested that we need, and I believe that's true, if we do that right, I think we could get out of this earlier than we all expect. But if nothing else, leaving it alone and not doing anything about it or acting slow is which has caused bigger problems in the past. But we got this problem now, and it's going to be what it's going to be, but to some extent it will definitely be helped by the Fed.
Okay. And we were really glad that Ben Bernanke, while he wasn't able to make it today, he did send you, so we're very appreciative of that.
Well, he sent us the just do it factor.
Just do it. And Judy, back to you. The banking industry, which the federal government's changed the guarantee requirements or the guarantee limits. Can you talk a little bit about what happened on that, and what does that mean for the average person in Nevada County?
Well, peace of mind, or larger peace of mind. In our bank, we use the sleep at night factor a lot. The bank is a well-capitalized bank. That allows us to sleep at night. Should allow our depositors to sleep at night as well. FDIC insurance going to $250,000, which is it's temporary through the end of 2009. But the edge that it took off the population in general in the United States, and therefore, you know, our community as well, most of us don't have $100,000 in the bank, let alone $250,000 in the bank. And that step up within the the rescue package put peace of mind in most of the homes throughout the United States, and certainly in the homes in those of us that live in Nevada County or Placer County as well. You think about it, knowing that you've got that safety net, you know, that the sleep at night factor, that there isn't a sense of urgency or the worry associated, is my money okay?
Well, one of the things I see as a businessman who had a business here would be, if I need to reserve cash for payroll, I could well exceed the $100,000. People like Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, NID, some of these kinds of employers have huge requirements on payroll day, and if those funds aren't protected, I would feel very much at risk. So I was glad to see that happen. Kind of winding up here, what are some of the industries in our community that are doing well, and what are some of the industries that are not doing well?
We've got some strain in the construction industry right now. And one of the good things that I see in the construction industry, though, is those larger crews from some of the bigger contractors in our community, the contractors are sharing crews. In other words, where some are very busy with multiple projects, they're borrowing crews from those contractors that might not be necessarily that busy. As you drive around Main Street, Broad Street, our streets, our own definition of Main Street, Nevada City, Grass Valley, you'll see that this is good news, the long postponed projects by some of our contractors or some of our, either whether you're a consumer or you're a commercial real estate developer, some of those long postponed projects are being done right now. It's encouraging to see even remodeling, painting, et cetera. On the other side, what we see as really kind of moving forward is, on the medical side, we see a lot of growth in that industry and manufacturing right here in Nevada County.
In the last minute or two that we have here for the program today, I just want to say again to you, thanks for being here today. I know this subject really needs to have about 4 hours, and unfortunately we only have 30 minutes to talk about it. And Tim, I want to thank you for hitting some of the highlights of this, because it is a worry and concern to businesses. Is credit going to be there? Any real tight piece of advice that you have for us? Yes,
I think the best thing in these times, and I've been through, this is now my 5th one of economic slowdowns that in my career. And early on, I used to really panic over these things and lose a lot of sleep. You're going to lose a little bit of sleep, but mostly I would say don't look at your stocks every day.
Yeah, do not look at your stocks. It's a long-term problem. Anyway, again, I just want to thank you for being here with us today on About Business, the Economic Resources Council sort of report to the community, and thanks much for being here, and I hope to have you back again soon. And thank all of you for watching, and we look forward to another program with you very soon.